You and your daughter are just freeloaders. Those words came from my mother's mouth while standing in my kitchen, in my house, eating food from my refrigerator. And the worst part? My 7-year-old daughter heard every single word. My name is Rachel, and if you're watching this, I need you to stay until the end, because what happened next changed everything. Have you ever given someone a home only to watch them destroy your peace right in front of your eyes? This is that story.
Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you.
The smell of burnt toast filled the air that Tuesday morning. I was running late for work, again, trying to pack my daughter Lily's lunch while simultaneously responding to emails on my phone. The kind of chaos that comes with being a single mom, working 60-hour weeks just to keep everything afloat. My parents had been living with us for 8 months. 8 months since my father's temporary recovery from hip surgery turned into a permanent residency. 8 months since my mother decided that Arizona was too hot and too lonely, and that staying with me in Portland was just until we figure things out. Except they never figured anything out. I bought this house 3 years ago, a modest 3-bedroom Craftsman in Northeast Portland, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every mortgage payment, every repair, every piece of furniture, I earned it. After my divorce from Lily's father, I rebuilt everything from scratch. This house wasn't just property, it was proof that I could stand on my own 2 feet. When Dad called about the surgery, I didn't hesitate. "Come stay with us," I said. "We have the extra room. Lily would love to see her grandparents more." I meant it, too. I genuinely thought having them around would be good for my daughter, good for all of us. The first week was nice. Mom cooked dinner a few times. Dad told Lily stories about when I was her age. There were moments of laughter, of warmth, of something that almost felt like the family I'd always wanted, but never quite had growing up. But by week 3, things shifted. The cooking stopped, the stories became criticisms, and somehow, imperceptibly at first, I became the help in my own home. "Rachel, the trash needs to go out." "Rachel, we're out of milk again. Can you pick some up?" "Rachel, your daughter left her toys everywhere. You really need to teach her to clean up." Never a please, never a thank you. Just commands delivered with the casual entitlement of people who'd forgotten they were guests. I told myself it was temporary. They were adjusting, Dad was still recovering, Mom was stressed. I could handle it. But that Tuesday morning, something snapped. I was in the kitchen fighting with a plastic container that refused to seal when my mother walked in wearing her bathrobe at 8:30 in the morning. She glanced at the counter where I'd left a few dishes from the night before, dishes I'd planned to wash after dropping Lily at school. "This kitchen is a disaster," she said. Not to me, but to the air, like she was narrating her disappointment for an invisible audience. I took a breath. "I'll clean it when I get back, Mom. I'm running late." "You're always running late," she replied, opening the fridge and staring into it like the contents personally offended her. Lily was sitting at the table, quietly eating her cereal, her big brown eyes darting between us. She'd gotten good at that, reading the room, staying small, trying not to add to the tension. "I've got it under control," I said, forcing lightness into my voice for Lily's sake. My mother closed the fridge with more force than necessary. "Do you? Because from where I'm standing, you can barely manage this house, your job, or your child." The air left the room. I froze, container still in hand, trying to process what she'd just said. My child, like Lily was a burden, like I was failing. "Mom, don't mom me. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You took on too much. You bought a house you can't afford, you're working yourself to death, and meanwhile, your daughter is growing up practically raising herself." My hands started shaking, not from fear, from rage. "I can afford this house just fine. I said quietly. And Lily is not raising herself. Oh, really? Then why is she eating cereal alone every morning while you're buried in your phone? Why is she going to bed without you half the time because you're catching up on work? Lily's spoon clinked against her bowl. She wasn't eating anymore, just staring down, shoulders hunched. I wanted to scream. I wanted to defend myself, to list every sacrifice I'd made. Every night I stayed up late finishing projects so I could afford dance lessons and new shoes, and yes, a home where my daughter felt safe. But I didn't, because my daughter was listening, and I'd learned a long time ago that you don't fight in front of your kids. You don't let them see you break. So I grabbed my bag, walked over to Lily, kissed the top of her head, and whispered, I love you. Have a great day at school. She nodded, but didn't look up. I left without another word to my mother. The drive to Lily's school was a blur. She was quiet in the back seat, which wasn't like her. Usually she chattered about her dreams, her friends, what she wanted to be when she grew up. But that morning, silence. When I pulled up to the drop-off line, I turned around.
Hey, Bug. You okay? She nodded, but her eyes were glassy. Grandma didn't mean that stuff, you know. She's just stressed. I know, Lily said softly. Then, barely audible, Am I too much, Mommy? My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I unbuckled my seatbelt, climbed into the back seat, and pulled her into my lap right there in the car line with annoyed parents honking behind me. No, I said firmly, holding her face in my hands. You are not too much. You are everything. You are my whole world. Don't you ever think otherwise. She nodded against my chest, and I felt her little body relax just slightly. I love you more than anything, I whispered. I love you too, Mommy. I kissed her forehead, helped her out of the car, and watched her walk into school with her backpack bouncing against her tiny frame. And right then, sitting in my car in the school parking lot, I made a decision. This was going to end. I couldn't keep sacrificing my daughter's emotional safety to keep the peace with people who didn't appreciate anything I did. I couldn't keep pretending this arrangement was working when it was clearly destroying us from the inside out. I drove to work in a daze, went through the motions of meetings and emails, but my mind was somewhere else. I was calculating, planning, figuring out how to take back control of my own life without completely burning every family bridge I had left. By lunchtime, I had drafted a mental script. I'd sit them down that evening, calm, rational, compassionate, but firm. I'd explain that the arrangement wasn't sustainable, that I needed my space back, that I'd help them find a place nearby, but they couldn't stay indefinitely. It was reasonable. It was fair. I felt good about it. But when I got home that evening, everything I'd planned went straight out the window. Because I walked into my house and found my mother sitting on my couch, talking on the phone with my Aunt Linda, and I heard her say, I'm telling you, Linda, I don't know how much longer we can take it. Rachel and that little girl, they're just freeloaders. We've been supporting them for months, and honestly, I'm exhausted. I stood in the doorway, groceries in hand, frozen. My mother's back was to me. She didn't know I was there. She continued, She has no idea how to run a household. The place is always a mess, that child has no discipline, and Rachel, she's barely keeping it together. We're basically holding everything together here. Freeloaders. In my house. That I paid for. While they contributed absolutely nothing. Something inside me didn't just crack, it incinerated. I set the groceries down very carefully on the entry table. I didn't slam them, I didn't make a sound. And then I walked into the living room. My mother saw me and her face went pale. She stammered something into the phone and quickly hung up. Rachel, I held up one hand. Don't, I said. My voice was calm, eerily calm. Don't say another word.
My father appeared from the hallway. "What's going on?" I looked at both of them. These people who raised me, these people I'd opened my home to without hesitation, these people who just called me and my daughter freeloaders. "Pack your things," I said simply. "You have until Sunday." My mother's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious." I've never been more serious in my life. "Rachel, you're overreacting. My mother was just venting." "Venting?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She called us freeloaders. In my house. The house I bought. The house I pay for. The house where you've been living rent-free for 8 months. "We've been helping," my mother started. "Helping?" I cut her off. "Name one bill you've paid, one grocery run you've covered, one single thing you've contributed besides criticism." Silence. "That's what I thought. You have until Sunday. Find somewhere else to go." And I walked upstairs to check on Lily, leaving them standing there in shock. Because sometimes the kindest thing you can do is stop allowing people to mistake your generosity for weakness.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the muffled sounds of my parents arguing in the guest room below. Their voices carried through the vents, sharp whispers punctuated by my mother's indignant tone and my father's attempts at reasoning. Part of me expected them to apologize, to knock on my door with some semblance of accountability. But the knock never came. Instead, the next morning, I woke to find my mother had rearranged my entire living room. The couch was pushed against a different wall. The coffee table moved. My carefully curated bookshelf, the one I'd organized by color because it made Lily happy, was completely shuffled. Books stacked haphazardly, some even upside down. I stood in the doorway in my pajamas, coffee mug halfway to my lips, trying to comprehend what I was seeing. My mother emerged from the kitchen with a satisfied smile. "I fixed it," she announced. "The flow was all wrong. This opens up the space much better." I blinked. "You rearranged my furniture?" "You're welcome," she said, completely missing or ignoring the tone in my voice. My father sat in the armchair, newspaper open, saying nothing. He'd perfected the art of selective invisibility over the years. "Mom," I said slowly, setting my mug down before I threw it, "I told you to pack, not redecorate." "Oh, Rachel, you don't really mean that. You were upset. I understand. But we're family. We work through things." "There's nothing to work through. You called me a freeloader in my own home." "I was frustrated," she countered, as if that explained everything. "You know how I get when I'm stressed. I didn't mean it literally." "But you said it, and you meant enough of it to say it to Aunt Linda." My mother's expression hardened. "So you're going to throw us out over a private conversation?" "Private?" I almost laughed. "You were in my living room, and yes, I'm going to set boundaries that should have been set months ago." She turned to my father. "Gerald, say something." He finally lowered the newspaper. "Rachel, your mother shouldn't have said what she said, but asking us to leave with only a few days' notice seems extreme." "What's extreme?" I replied, "is living somewhere for 8 months without contributing a single dollar, then having the audacity to complain about the people actually paying for everything. We raised you. We fed you, clothed you, put a roof over your head for 18 years, and this is how you repay us?" There it was, the debt I could never repay, the eternal guilt card. I'd heard variations of this my entire life. Every time I set a boundary, every time I chose myself, it was met with, "After everything we've done for you." But this time, something was different. This time, I had a daughter watching, learning, absorbing the lesson about whether women are allowed to take up space without apology. "You did what parents are supposed to do," I said quietly. "That doesn't mean I owe you unlimited access to my life and my home forever." My mother's face flushed red. You've always been selfish, Rachel. Even as a child, everything had to be your way. I grabbed my coffee and headed toward the stairs. Sunday, I called back. That's not changing. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice crack. You'll regret this. Maybe, but I doubted it. Work that day was impossible. I sat through a morning meeting about quarterly projections, nodding at appropriate times but retaining absolutely nothing. My phone buzzed constantly. Texts from my mother, my father, even Aunt Linda weighing in with her unsolicited opinions. Mom, you're making a huge mistake. Dad, can we please talk about this rationally? Aunt Linda, your mother is devastated. I hope you're proud of yourself. I turned my phone face down and tried to focus. My coworker Vanessa noticed during lunch. You okay? You've been staring at that salad like it personally offended you. I exhaled. Family stuff. Say no more, she said knowingly. The holidays aren't even here yet, and already people are losing their minds. I appreciated that she didn't pry. Vanessa was good like that. Present, but not invasive. Can I ask you something? Shoot. If someone was living in your house rent-free, not helping with bills or groceries, criticizing everything you did, and then called you a freeloader, would you be wrong to ask them to leave?
Vanessa's eyebrows shot up. Is this hypothetical or not even a little bit? She set down her fork. Rachel, if someone did that to me, they'd be out that same day. Forget a deadline. Who are we talking about? My parents. Oh, she sat back. That's complicated. Is it though? She considered this. Societally, yes. People will judge you because family is family and all that garbage. But actually, no. You don't owe anyone access to your peace, parent or not. I nodded slowly. Hearing someone else validate what I already knew helped more than I expected. They think I'm overreacting, I admitted. Of course they do. People who cross boundaries always think enforcing them is overreacting. It's gaslighting 101. I smiled slightly. When did you get so wise? Therapy, she said simply. Lots and lots of therapy. And a mother who also thought my boundaries were suggestions. We finished lunch talking about lighter things, but her words stayed with me. I wasn't overreacting. I was finally reacting appropriately. When I picked up Lily from school that afternoon, she was quieter than usual. We drove home listening to her favorite playlist, but she just stared out the window. What's on your mind, Bug? I asked at a red light. She was quiet for a moment. Then, are Grandma and Grandpa leaving? My chest tightened. Yeah, sweetheart, they are. Because of what Grandma said? I glanced at her in the rearview mirror. Her face was unreadable, too mature for 7 years old. Partly, I admitted, but also because sometimes people need their own space, including us. She heard her last night, Lily said softly. She was crying. She said you don't love them anymore. I pulled into a parking lot and turned around to face her fully. Lily, I want you to hear me very clearly, okay? I love Grandma and Grandpa, but loving someone doesn't mean letting them treat you badly. Do you understand? She nodded, but her eyes were uncertain. You're allowed to love people and still protect yourself. You're allowed to say, that's not okay, even to people you care about, especially to people you care about. But she's sad, Lily whispered. I know, baby, and that's hard. But her sadness doesn't mean I made the wrong choice. Sometimes doing the right thing makes people upset. She absorbed this. Is she sad because she has to leave your house? Our house, I corrected gently. This is your house too. And yes, that's part of it. Lily looked down at her hands. I thought it was her house too. And there it was, the root of it all. They'd made my daughter feel like a guest in her own home, like we were borrowing space that belonged to them. I unbuckled and moved to the back seat, pulling her close. This is our home, Lily, yours and mine. We bought it, we take care of it, we get to decide who stays and who goes. And right now, we need it just to be us for a while. Is that okay?" She nodded against my shoulder. "You're not a freeloader," I whispered, even though she hadn't asked. "I'm your daughter. This is your home. Always." I felt her small body relax, and I realized how much tension she'd been carrying, how much she'd internalized without me even noticing. We sat there in that parking lot for 10 minutes, just holding each other, until she finally pulled back and gave me a small smile. "Can we get ice cream?" I laughed. Absolutely. Because sometimes the heaviest conversations require the sweetest endings. That night, I tucked her in and she asked, "Mommy, will it be quieter when they leave?" Probably," I said honestly. "Good," she mumbled, already half asleep. "I like quiet." I kissed her forehead and realized my daughter had been surviving, not thriving, and that was about to change.
Friday morning arrived with an unexpected twist. I woke up to find my parents hadn't packed a single thing. Not one box, not one suitcase. Nothing. Instead, my mother was in the kitchen making pancakes like it was any other weekend, humming to herself as if our conversation had never happened. I stood in the doorway, watching this performance of normalcy, and felt my blood pressure spike. "Mom." She turned, spatula in hand, with a bright smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, sweetie. I'm making your favorite, blueberry pancakes. Lily loves them too." "Why haven't you packed?" The smile faltered slightly. "Well, your father and I talked, and we realized you're going through a lot right now. Work stress, single parenting, managing this big house alone. You're overwhelmed. So we've decided to give you some grace and stay to help." I stared at her. Grace? Yes. She flipped a pancake with practiced ease. "We're not going to abandon you just because you're having a moment." "A moment," I repeated slowly. "Mom, I'm not having a moment. I asked you to leave. That hasn't changed." "Rachel, don't be ridiculous. Where would we even go on such short notice?" "That's not my problem to solve." She set down the spatula, her expression hardening. "You know what your problem is? You hold grudges. You always have. Remember when you were 12 and didn't speak to me for a week because I gave away that ratty stuffed elephant? You threw it away without asking me, and I was attached to it. See? Still holding on to it, still making mountains out of molehills." This was her strategy. Rewrite history, minimize my feelings, paint me as irrational. It had worked for years. I doubted myself, apologized for things that weren't my fault, shrunked myself to keep the peace. Not anymore. "Sunday," I said firmly. "If you're not out by Sunday evening, I'm changing the locks." My mother laughed. Actually laughed. "You wouldn't dare." "Try me." I walked out before she could respond, grabbed my work bag, and left for the office without breakfast. My father called me 3 times during my commute. I declined each one. Then came the texts. "Dad, your mother is crying." "Dad, this is cruel, Rachel." "Dad, we sacrificed everything for you." I wanted to respond. I wanted to list every sacrifice I'd made, every time I put them first, every boundary they'd trampled. But I'd learned something important over the past few days. People who don't want to understand never will, no matter how articulate your argument. So I didn't respond. I just drove. At work, I threw myself into a project proposal I'd been avoiding for weeks. Focusing on something I could control felt therapeutic. Numbers made sense. Spreadsheets didn't gaslight you. Around 11, my desk phone rang. Internal extension. "Rachel, you have a visitor at reception," said Kelly, our front desk coordinator. I frowned. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I got downstairs, my stomach dropped. My mother stood in the lobby, dressed like she was attending a funeral, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Kelly looked uncomfortable. "Mom, what are you doing here?" "She needed to see you," she said, voice trembling. "You won't answer our calls."
Because I have nothing more to say. Please, Rachel, can we just talk? Somewhere private? Every eye in the lobby was on us. My coworkers pretending not to stare. Kelly suddenly very interested in her computer screen. I felt the familiar heat of embarrassment creeping up my neck, the same feeling I'd had my whole life when my mother made scenes, at school functions, at restaurants, anywhere she felt she wasn't getting enough attention.
And this is my workplace. You're being inappropriate. Her expression shifted from sad to furious in an instant. Inappropriate? I'm trying to save our relationship, and you're worried about being professional? Yes, I said simply. Please leave or I'll call security. It was a bluff. Our building didn't really have security, but she didn't know that. My mother's face crumpled. She looked around at the gathered witnesses, then back at me. You've changed, Rachel. You used to be such a sweet girl. No, I corrected. I used to be a doormat. There's a difference. I turned and walked back to the elevator, hands shaking but head held high. Behind me, I heard Kelly gently directing my mother toward the exit. When I got back to my desk, Vanessa appeared with a cup of coffee. Saw that from the break room window, she said knowingly. You okay? I took the coffee gratefully. She came to my job, Vanessa, my actual workplace. Classic extinction burst, she said knowingly. What? Extinction burst. It's a psychology thing. When you start enforcing boundaries with someone who's used to having none, they escalate their behavior before they accept the new reality. It gets worse before it gets better. Great, I muttered. What's next? Showing up at Lily's school? Vanessa's face told me she didn't think that was out of the realm of possibility. I immediately sent an email to Lily's principal explaining the situation and explicitly stating that only I was authorized to pick up my daughter until further notice. That evening, I came home to find both my parents sitting in the living room with a priest, Father Michael from St. Augustine's, the church my parents attended when they still lived in Arizona. Apparently, he was in town for a conference, and they'd asked him to mediate. Rachel, Father Michael stood, extending his hand. Your parents are very concerned about you. I didn't shake his hand. With all due respect, Father, this is a private family matter. Of course. I'm just here as a neutral party. Your mother mentioned there's been some discord. They've been living here rent-free for 8 months. They contribute nothing financially, constantly criticize how I raise my daughter, and called us freeloaders. I've asked them to leave. That's not discord, that's consequence. My mother gasped like I had slapped her. Rachel! Father Michael held up a calming hand. I understand emotions are high, but surely we can find a path forward that honors the family bond. The family bond was broken when they disrespected my child in my home. I'm not interested in mediation. I'm interested in them leaving by Sunday as agreed. As agreed? My father stood. You gave us an ultimatum. That's not an agreement. You're right. It's a boundary, and boundaries don't require agreement. Father Michael tried again. The Bible teaches us to honor our father and mother. The Bible also says not to exasperate your children, Colossians 3:21, and that's exactly what they're doing to my daughter. I saw my mother's jaw clench. She hadn't expected me to quote scripture back. I appreciate you coming, Father Michael, but this conversation is over. I need to check on my daughter. I walked upstairs before anyone could protest. Lily was in her room, headphones on, deliberately not listening to the drama below. When she saw me, she pulled them off. There's a priest here. I know, Bug. He's leaving soon. Are we in trouble? No, sweetheart. Grandma and Grandpa are just trying very hard not to leave, but they still have to. She nodded, then asked quietly, Mommy, why don't they want their own house? It was a simple, honest question, and the truth was complicated. Sometimes adults make choices that don't make sense, but that doesn't mean we have to live with those choices. Lily thought about this. Can we have pizza tonight? Just us? Absolutely. I ordered pizza and Lily and I ate in her room, sitting on her floor with paper plates playing Go Fish and pretending the chaos downstairs didn't exist. Eventually, I heard the front door close, voices fading, the house settling into uneasy quiet.
When I went down later, Father Michael was gone, but my parents sat in stony silence on the couch. "This is your final answer?" my father asked. "Yes." "Then you're going to have to live with the consequences," my mother said coldly. "I already am. And honestly, I'm sleeping better than I have in months." I went back upstairs, locked my bedroom door for the first time in my own house, and finally, felt like I could breathe. 2 more days. Just 2 more days.
Saturday morning, I woke to silence. For a moment, lying in bed with early sunlight filtering through the curtains, I let myself imagine they'd actually left during the night. That I'd go downstairs and find the guest room empty, the house peaceful, the nightmare over. Then I heard the television. Game shows, my father's weekend ritual, the sound of canned laughter and applause drifting up through the floorboards. They were still here. I checked my phone. Tomorrow was Sunday. 24 hours left. Part of me wanted to stay in bed, avoid the inevitable confrontation brewing below. But I had plans today. Plans I'd made specifically to show Lily what reclaiming our space looked like. I got dressed, woke Lily gently, and we headed downstairs. My parents were exactly where I expected them. Dad in his usual chair, Mom at the dining table with her crossword puzzle and key. The picture of domestic permanence. "Good morning," my mother said with forced cheerfulness. "There's coffee made." I didn't respond, just poured myself a cup and started making Lily's breakfast. "Big plans today?" my father asked, eyes still on the television. "Actually, yes," I said. "Lily and I are going furniture shopping." My mother's pen paused mid-word. "Furniture shopping?" "For the guest room," I explained, plating scrambled eggs for Lily. "I'm converting it into a home office. I've been needing dedicated workspace, and once you're gone, the timing is perfect." The air in the room shifted. My mother set down her crossword. "You're redecorating before we've even left?" Her voice was tight. "I'm planning ahead," I corrected. "The room will be empty tomorrow evening. Might as well have a vision for it." My father muted the television. "Rachel, this is petty." "No, Dad. Petty would be changing the locks today instead of waiting until tomorrow like I said I would. This is just practical." Lily ate her eggs quietly, eyes darting between us. I'd explained earlier that today would be tense, that Grandma and Grandpa might say things to make me feel bad, but that we were doing the right thing. "You've really thought this through, haven't you?" my mother said bitterly. "Just erasing us like we were never here." "You were here, and now you're leaving. That's how temporary arrangements work. We're your parents, not temporary house guests." "Then maybe you should have acted like parents instead of entitled critics." My mother stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. "Gerald, get your things. We're leaving today. I won't stay another minute in a house where we're so clearly unwanted." Finally, the words I'd been waiting for. But my father didn't move. "Dorothy, sit down." "No, I won't be disrespected like this. If she wants us gone, we'll go right now." "With what money?" my father said quietly. "We can't afford a hotel, and we haven't found an apartment yet." The truth hung in the air like smoke. They had nowhere to go. They'd been banking on me backing down, on guilt winning, on the deadline passing while they pretended it didn't exist. My mother's face flushed. "Then we'll stay with Linda." "Linda lives in a 1-bedroom condo," my father reminded her. "She already said she can't accommodate us." I watched this play out with a strange detachment. They were arguing about logistics like I wasn't even there, like my home was still somehow theirs to negotiate over. "Figure it out," I said simply, "but do it somewhere else. Lily and I are leaving for the day. When we get back this evening, I expect to see progress on packing." I didn't wait for a response. Lily grabbed her jacket and we left. The furniture store was bright and overwhelming in the best way. Lily ran ahead, testing desk chairs by spinning in circles, giggling as I pretended to shop seriously while secretly watching her joy. Mommy, look at this one. She'd found a purple velvet chair with gold legs. That's very fancy, I said, sitting in it. What do you think? Too much? Nothing is too much, she declared with 7-year-old wisdom. I bought the chair. We also picked out a desk, a bookshelf, some organizational bins, and a small reading lamp shaped like a crescent moon. The sales associate promised delivery by Wednesday. New office, she asked while processing my order. New beginning, I replied. On the way home, we stopped for ice cream. Our second time this week, but who was counting? She got cookie dough, I got salted caramel. We sat on a bench outside the shop, enjoying the autumn sunshine. Are you scared? Lily asked suddenly. Of what, Bug? Of Grandma and Grandpa being mad at you forever? I took a slow breath. A little, I admitted. But I'm more scared of teaching you that it's okay to let people treat you badly just because they're family. She licked her ice cream thoughtfully. Madison at school says family is forever. Family can be forever, I agreed. But forever doesn't mean unconditional access. It means you love them, but you also love yourself enough to have boundaries. What's boundaries? Rules that keep you safe, like how you're not allowed to go to someone's house without asking me first. That's a boundary. It keeps you protected. Oh, she considered this. So telling Grandma to leave is a boundary? Exactly. That's good then, she said decidedly. I like boundaries. I smiled and kissed the top of her head. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. We got home around 5. I expected to see boxes, suitcases, some sign of preparation. Instead, I found my mother in the kitchen cooking dinner. A full dinner. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, the works. I thought we could have one last family meal, she said without turning around, before we go. I stood in the doorway, groceries in hand. I'd stopped to pick up essentials for the week ahead. Mom? It's just dinner, Rachel. Surely you're not so heartless you'd deny us that. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw something. I wanted to ask why every single thing had to be a manipulation, a guilt trip, a test of my resolve. But Lily was right behind me, and I'd promised myself I wouldn't lose control in front of her. Fine. One dinner, then packing. My mother smiled like she'd won something. We ate in near silence. My father made awkward small talk about the weather. My mother served everyone with exaggerated care. Lily pushed potatoes around her plate. Halfway through, my mother set down her fork. I've been thinking, she began, what if we paid rent? A small amount, just to contribute. Would that change things? Here we go. How much were you thinking? I asked evenly. Well, we're on a fixed income, but maybe $200 a month? I almost laughed. My mortgage was $2,200, utilities another $300, groceries at least $500 with them eating here. $200? I repeated. It's what we can afford, my father added. And the other $2,000? You were paying it anyway before we got here, my mother said quickly, so it's not really costing you more. I set down my fork carefully. Except it is. Food costs more, the electric bill doubled, the water bill tripled because of Dad's long showers. You use my streaming services, my internet, my space, and beyond money, there's the emotional cost of being criticized daily in my own home. We were just trying to help. No, you were trying to control. There's a difference. My mother's eyes filled with tears. So that's it? We offered to pay rent and you still say no? I didn't ask for rent, Mom. I asked you to leave. Those are different things. She stood abruptly, tears spilling over. You'll regret this, Rachel. When we're gone and you're struggling alone, you'll wish you'd been kinder. Maybe. But I'll be struggling in peace. She left the table. My father followed without a word.
Lily looked at me with wide eyes. "You okay, Bug?" I asked softly. She nodded. "Then, I'm glad they're leaving tomorrow." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." That night, I heard them moving around. Closet doors opening and closing, the rustle of bags. Finally, after 3 days of resistance, they were packing. I lay in bed listening to the sounds of their departure preparations, and instead of guilt, I felt something unexpected. Relief. Pure, uncomplicated relief. Tomorrow, my house would be mine again. My daughter would have her peace back, and I would finally stop apologizing for taking up space in my own life. Just one more day. Sunday arrived with unexpected sunshine. I woke before my alarm, heart pounding with anticipation. Today was the day. I checked the time, 7:14 a.m. I'd told them they had until evening, which technically gave them almost 12 more hours. But when I walked downstairs, I found their belongings already staged by the front door. 3 suitcases, 2 boxes, a garment bag. 8 months of living condensed into 5 pieces of luggage. My mother sat on the couch, fully dressed in traveling clothes, purse on her lap, staring straight ahead like a soldier awaiting orders. My father stood by the window, hands in his pockets, looking older than I remembered. "You're up early," I said carefully. "We didn't sleep much," my mother replied, voice flat. "Hard to sleep when your own daughter is throwing you out." I didn't take the bait. "Where are you headed?" "Extended stay hotel off Highway 26, my father answered without turning around. "Week to week until we find something permanent." I nodded. Part of me wanted to ask if they needed help finding a place, if they had enough money, if they'd be okay, but I'd learned that my compassion was often weaponized against me, turned into obligation. "That sounds manageable," I said neutrally. My mother laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "Manageable? We're in our 70s, moving into a hotel, and you think that's manageable?" "You have other options," I reminded her. "You could go back to Arizona. Aunt Linda offered her spare room for a few weeks. You chose the hotel." "Because we have dignity," she snapped. "We won't beg for charity from extended family while our own daughter has a spare bedroom she refuses to share." It's not refusing to share, it's reclaiming space that was never meant to be permanent. My father finally turned. "When did you become so cold, Rachel?" The question landed like a punch. Cold, heartless, cruel. I'd heard versions of these words all week, each one designed to make me question myself. But here's what I'd realized. Setting boundaries didn't make me cold, it made me conscious. And consciousness, after years of people-pleasing, felt radical. I became this way when being warm meant letting people walk all over me. He had no response to that. Lily appeared at the top of the stairs, still in her pajamas, hair messy from sleep. She looked at the luggage, then at me. "Are they leaving now?" she whispered. "Soon, Bug." She came down slowly, staying close to my side. My mother's expression softened slightly when she saw her granddaughter. "Come give Grandma a hug." Lily looked up at me uncertainly. I gave her a gentle nod. This was her choice. She walked over slowly and let my mother embrace her, but her arms stayed at her sides. No reciprocation, just tolerance. "You be good for your mama," my mother said, voice catching, "and remember that Grandma loves you, even if your mother doesn't want us around." I felt my jaw clench. But before I could intervene, Lily pulled back and said clearly, "Mommy wants us to be happy. That's why you're leaving." Out of the mouths of babes. My mother's face crumpled. She looked at me like I'd coached Lily to say it, like I'd turned her granddaughter against her. But I hadn't said a word. Lily had simply observed, absorbed, and drawn her own conclusions. "We should go," my father said, voice rough. "The check-in time is 9. He started loading luggage into their car, the sedan they'd barely driven in 8 months. parked in my driveway like a permanent fixture. My mother stood, smoothed her skirt, and walked to the door without looking back. No goodbye, no thank you for the 8 months of free housing, nothing. Just silence, and the click of the front door closing. I watched through the window as my father loaded the last box into the trunk. He paused, looked back at the house, at me standing in the window, and for a moment I thought he might wave. He didn't.
He got in the car and they drove away. Just like that. 8 months of tension, manipulation, and emotional warfare ended with a sedan turning the corner and disappearing from view. Lily stood beside me, her small hand finding mine. "Are you sad?" she asked. "A little," I admitted, but also relieved. Is that weird? "No," she said thoughtfully. "I feel the same way." We stood there together, watching the empty street, feeling the weight of their absence. And then Lily said, "Can we make pancakes now? The kind with chocolate chips?" I laughed, really laughed for the first time in days. Absolutely. We spent the rest of the morning in the kitchen making a glorious mess. Chocolate chips everywhere, batter on the counter, Lily wearing more flour than the pancakes. Music played from my phone, songs we actually liked, not the conservative talk radio my father insisted on. We danced while flipping pancakes, sang into spatulas, and didn't worry about crumbs on the floor. The house felt different already. Lighter. Like it could finally breathe. After breakfast, we started reclaiming spaces. I opened all the windows in the guest room, letting fresh air chase out the stale energy. We stripped the bed together, Lily helping me pull off sheets that smelled like my mother's perfume. "What's going in here again?" Lily asked. "My office," I said. "A desk, bookshelves, that fancy purple chair you picked out. Can I help decorate?" "I'm counting on it." We carried the linens to the laundry room and I started a load. Something symbolic about washing away their presence, starting fresh. In the bathroom they'd used, I found my mother had taken the fancy hand soap I'd bought, but left the cheap bar soap she'd brought. Small, petty, perfect summary of how they operated. I threw the bar soap away and replaced it with a new bottle that smelled like lavender. By afternoon, Lily was helping me rearrange the living room, putting it back the way I'd had it before my mother's unsolicited redesign. We moved the couch back to its original wall, repositioned the bookshelf, reorganized books by color again. "This looks better," Lily declared, hands on her hips surveying our work. "Much better," I agreed. That evening, we ordered Thai food, something my father hated, and ate it sitting on the floor of the living room with a movie playing. No formal dinner table, no criticism about manners, no tension. Just us. Just peace. As Lily leaned against me, half watching the movie, half falling asleep, I realized something profound. I'd been so afraid of becoming the villain in their story that I almost let them write mine. But the truth was, I wasn't the villain. I was the protagonist finally taking control of the narrative. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Linda. "Aunt Linda called. She's very upset, said you threw them out with nowhere to go. Is that true?" I typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on me. They had 8 months to find somewhere else. I gave them a week's notice. They chose to wait until the last day. That's not my responsibility. "But they're family, Rachel. So are Lily and I. And we deserve peace in our own home." She didn't respond after that. Later, after I'd tucked Lily into bed, I walked through my house room by room. Each space felt reclaimed. The kitchen, where I could cook without judgment. The living room arranged exactly how I wanted it. The guest room, waiting to become something productive rather than something draining. And my bedroom, my sanctuary, where I could finally sleep without tension creeping through the walls.
I poured myself a glass of wine, sat on the back porch, and let the evening air wash over me. Somewhere across town, my parents were unpacking in a hotel room, probably talking about how ungrateful I was, how they'd raised me better, how they never saw this coming. But here's what they'll never understand. They did raise me better, better than they realized. They taught me what I didn't want to become. And tonight, in this quiet house with my sleeping daughter upstairs and my boundaries firmly in place, I'd never felt more like myself. Tomorrow, the new furniture would be ordered. Next week, I'd paint the office. Next month, maybe I'd finally start that consulting side business I'd been dreaming about. The possibilities felt endless now that I wasn't carrying the weight of their expectations. I raised my glass to the empty yard, to the stars emerging overhead, to the version of me that finally learned to say, enough. Here's to new beginnings. And for the first time in 8 months, I slept through the entire night without waking once.
Monday morning felt surreal. I woke up naturally. No alarm, no tension, no sound of my parents moving around downstairs. Just birds chirping outside, and soft sunlight filtering through my curtains. For a moment, I lay there waiting for the guilt to crash over me, waiting to feel terrible about what I'd done. It never came. Instead, I felt energized. I got up, made coffee in a quiet kitchen, and actually enjoyed the silence. Lily came down, rubbing her eyes, climbed into my lap at the kitchen table, and we just sat there together. No rush, no chaos, just morning. "This is nice," she murmured against my shoulder. "Yeah, Bug, it really is." But peace, I was about to learn, is often the calm before the storm. My phone started ringing before I even got to work. Aunt Linda, Uncle Ray, my cousin Jessica, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years. Even my father's brother, Uncle Tom, calling from Florida. I declined them all. Then came the texts, a flood of them. "Aunt Linda, your mother is having chest pains. The stress is too much. You need to fix this." Uncle Ray, "Family doesn't treat family this way. Very disappointed in you." Cousin Jessica, "Wow, Rachel, never thought you'd be the type to abandon elderly parents." Uncle Tom, "Your dad called. He sounded devastated. What's going on?" I stared at my phone, watching message after message pour in. They'd mobilized the entire family, painted me as the villain, and now everyone was weighing in on a situation they knew nothing about. Vanessa noticed my expression when I got to my desk. "Family group chat blowing up?" "Extended family," I said. "Apparently, I'm now the worst daughter in America." "Let me guess, they're sharing one side of the story. The only side they care about." She leaned against my desk. "You know what you need to do, right? Ignore it? Better. Control the narrative." I frowned. "I'm not getting into a he said, she said with my entire family." "You don't have to. Just state facts, once, then mute the conversation." She was right. Silence made me look guilty, but endless defending would drain me. I needed something in between. During lunch, I typed out a single message and sent it to the family group chat I'd been removed from, but could still text individually. For those who've reached out, my parents lived with me rent-free for 8 months. They contributed nothing financially, criticized my parenting constantly, and called my daughter and me freeloaders in my own home. I gave them a week's notice to find other arrangements. They chose to wait until the last day. I'm not abandoning them. I'm establishing boundaries. This is my only statement on the matter. Then I muted notifications and put my phone away. Within minutes, my phone was vibrating nonstop. I didn't look. Wednesday, the new furniture arrived. The delivery guys hauled boxes up to the former guest room, and I spent the afternoon assembling my new desk with Lily's help, which mostly involved her handing me the wrong screws and asking if we could build a fort instead. We're building something better than a fort. We're building Mommy's dream office. By evening, the room had transformed. The purple velvet chair sat behind a sleek white desk. The bookshelf held my favorite novels, some business books, and a few of Lily's art projects. The crescent moon lamp cast a warm glow. It looked nothing like the space my parents had occupied. It looked like possibility.
I took a photo and posted it on social media with a simple caption, "New beginnings." Within an hour, my mother had commented, "Must be nice to have room for furniture, but not for family." I deleted the comment and blocked her. Some people will weaponize every olive branch you offer. Better to stop offering them. Thursday brought an unexpected visitor. I was working from home when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Aunt Linda standing on my porch, casserole dish in hand. I considered not answering, but Aunt Linda had always been the more reasonable one. Maybe she genuinely wanted to understand. I opened the door. "She come in peace," she said, holding up the casserole. "Chicken and rice, your favorite." "Aunt Linda," she interrupted. "I'm not here to lecture. I'm here to listen. Can I come in?" Against my better judgment, I let her in. We sat at my kitchen table, the casserole between us, like a neutral zone. "Your mother is staying with me now," she began. "The hotel was too expensive." I figured. "She's miserable, Rachel, crying constantly. Your father barely speaks. They feel completely betrayed."
I waited. There had to be more. "But," Aunt Linda continued, "I've been living with them for 4 days now, and I'm starting to see what you meant." I raised my eyebrows. "Your mother criticizes everything. The way I cook, the way I organize my pantry, how I dress. This morning she rearranged my entire linen closet without asking. Your father expects me to wait on him hand and foot. It's exhausting." "Now imagine 8 months of it," I said quietly. "In your own home, with your child watching." Aunt Linda sighed heavily. "I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm saying I understand now." "Thank you," I said. "That means more than you know. But I need to ask, is there any room for reconciliation? Not them moving back in, just communication?" "Right now, no. Maybe someday, but not now. I need distance, Lily needs peace, and honestly, they need to realize their behavior has consequences." She nodded slowly. "Fair enough. I can't argue with that." We talked for another hour. She told me stories I'd never heard, about my mother's controlling tendencies even as a younger woman, about my father's passivity enabling it. She apologized for not speaking up sooner, for assuming I was overreacting. When she left, she hugged me tight and whispered, "You're a good mother, Rachel. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." After she drove away, I sat on my couch feeling something unexpected. Validation. Not from my parents, not from most of my family, but from someone who'd witnessed both sides and still said, "I see you. You're not wrong." Sometimes that's all you need. Friday night, Lily had a nightmare. She woke up crying, calling for me. I rushed to her room and found her tangled in blankets, face wet with tears. "What's wrong, Bug?" "She dreamed Grandma came back and yelled at you, and you cried, and I couldn't help." My heart broke. She'd absorbed more stress than I realized. I climbed into her small bed and held her. "Grandma is not coming back, sweetheart. And even if she tried, I wouldn't let her yell. I'm done with that, okay? Promise?" "Promise." She settled against me, breathing slowly, returning to normal. "Mommy? Yeah, Bug? Are we safe now?" The question gutted me. My 7-year-old shouldn't have to ask if she's safe in her own home. "Yes, baby. We're safe. This is our house, our space. Nobody gets to make us feel small here anymore." "Good," she whispered. "I like being safe." She fell asleep in my arms, and I stayed there long after, staring at the ceiling, processing everything. This was why I'd done it. Not out of spite, not out of cruelty, but because my daughter deserved to feel safe in her own home. And now she did. Saturday morning, we started a new tradition. Pancake breakfast, then a walk to the nearby park. No agenda, no stress, just us being together. At the park, Lily played while I sat on a bench with my coffee, watching her laugh on the swings, completely carefree. A woman sat down next to me, older, maybe 60, with kind eyes. "She's beautiful," she said, nodding toward Lily. "Thank you. She's my whole world. I can tell." She paused. "Can I share something with you?" I nodded, curious. "I spent 20 years trying to make my mother happy, let her live with me, rearranged my life around her needs, sacrificed my own peace. She passed away 5 years ago, and you know what I regret most?" "What?" that I waited so long to set boundaries. I thought being a good daughter meant being endlessly available. It didn't. It just meant being endlessly exhausted. She patted my hand and stood to leave. Whatever you're going through, because I can see it on your face, don't wait as long as I did. Choose yourself. Choose your daughter. The guilt will fade, but regret lasts forever. She walked away before I could respond. I sat there, coffee cooling in my hands, watching Lily play, and felt something click into place. I'd made the right choice. Not the easy one, not the popular one, but the right one. And that was enough.
3 months later, autumn had fully settled into Portland. The trees outside my office window blazed orange and gold, and the air had that crisp quality that made everything feel like a fresh start. I sat at my new desk, finishing a client proposal for the consulting business I'd finally launched. Working from home had always been a dream, but with my parents here, it had been impossible. Now, in this quiet space I'd created, business was actually thriving. Lily burst through the door after school, backpack bouncing. "Mommy, guess what?" "What, bug?" "I got picked to read my essay in front of the whole class." "That's amazing. What's it about?" She climbed into the purple velvet chair, spinning once before answering. "It's called What Home Means to Me." My heart squeezed. "Can I hear it?" She pulled a crumpled paper from her backpack and read in her careful 7-year-old voice. "Home is not just a building. It's where you feel safe. It's where people are kind to you. It's where you can be yourself without being scared. My mom taught me that home is something you protect. Some people think home is where your family is, but I think family is who makes you feel at home. And my mom makes me feel at home every single day." I had to blink back tears. "Lily, that's beautiful. Do you think it's good enough?" "It's perfect." "You're perfect." She beamed and ran off to get a snack, leaving me sitting in my office, overwhelmed with gratitude. This was why I'd done everything I'd done. That evening, while Lily did homework at the kitchen table, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Rachel?" My father's voice, quieter than I remembered. "Please don't hang up." I walked into my office and closed the door. "I'm listening. I wanted you to know your mother and I found an apartment. Small place in Beaverton. We move in next week." "That's good, Dad. I'm glad you found something." Silence stretched between us. I also wanted to say he paused, and I heard him take a shaky breath. "I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting that." "For what specifically?" "For not standing up for you, for letting your mother say those things about Lily, for taking your generosity for granted." Another pause. "And for making you feel like you had to choose between us and your own peace." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you for saying that. Your mother, she's not ready to apologize yet. She still thinks you overreacted. But I've had time to think, and I've realized we made your house feel like our territory instead of being grateful guests." "Yeah," I said softly. "You did. Can I ask you something?" "Sure. Do you think someday we could have a relationship again? Not living together, just communication." I looked out my office window at the neighborhood where Lily and I had built our new life. The one without criticism, without walking on eggshells, without constant tension. "Maybe," I said honestly, "but it would have to look different. Boundaries would have to be respected. Lily's well-being comes first. Always." "I understand, and I respect that." "Then maybe someday, Dad. But not today." "That's fair. That's more than fair. Tell Lily her grandpa loves her." "I will." After we hung up, I sat with the conversation. It wasn't complete reconciliation. It wasn't everything healed, but it was acknowledgement. And that mattered. Thanksgiving arrived, and for the first time in my adult life,
I hosted it my way. No extended family drama, no elaborate productions. Just Vanessa and her wife, our neighbor Patricia, who'd become like a grandmother to Lily, and Lily's best friend Emma with her mom. We cooked together, laughed constantly, and ate on mismatched plates because I'd decided fancy china was overrated.
Lily led us and sang what we were thankful for. I'm thankful for this house, she said, because it's ours and it's happy. Everyone looked at me, sensing there was a story there, but nobody pried. I just raised my glass. To homes that feel like home. To homes that feel like home, they echoed. After dinner, while the adults cleaned up, Lily and Emma played in the living room. I watched them through the doorway, their laughter filling every corner of the space. Patricia sidled up next to me, drying a dish. "You've got something special here," she said. "I've lived next door for 3 years, and I've never seen this house feel so alive." "It took a while to get here," I admitted. "The best things usually do." December brought the first snow. Lily pressed her face against the window, mesmerized by the fat flakes falling. "Can we build a snowman?" she asked. "Absolutely." We bundled up and spent the afternoon in the yard, building the world's most lopsided snowman. Lily insisted on using carrots for both the nose and the arms because he needs to be able to eat. Later, warming up with hot chocolate, she asked out of nowhere, "Do you miss Grandma and Grandpa?" I considered the question carefully. Sometimes I miss who I wished they could be, but I don't miss how they made us feel. "Me neither," she said simply. "This is better." And she was right, it was better. Not perfect, not without its challenges. Single parenting was hard, and some days I was exhausted. But it was better, because it was honest, because the love in our home wasn't conditional, because my daughter was learning that she deserved respect and kindness, not just from others, but from herself. On New Year's Eve, after Lily had fallen asleep, I stood in my living room with a glass of champagne, reflecting on the year. I'd lost my parents, at least temporarily. I'd been called selfish, cruel, and heartless by people who mattered to me. I'd second-guessed myself 1,000 times, but I'd gained something invaluable. Myself. The version of me who didn't apologize for taking up space, who put my daughter's emotional safety above everyone else's comfort, who understood that love without respect isn't really love at all. My phone buzzed, a text from Aunt Linda. "Aunt Linda, your parents are settled in their new place. Your dad seems different, more reflective. Your mom is still struggling, but she's getting there. Just thought you should know. Happy New Year, Rachel. You're stronger than any of us gave you credit for." I smiled and typed back, "Happy New Year. Thank you for seeing me." At midnight, I watched the fireworks from my bedroom window. Lily had woken up just enough to stumble into my room and crawl into bed with me. "Happy New Year, Mommy," she mumbled sleepily. "Happy New Year, Bug." She curled against me and I held her close, breathing in the moment. This house, our house, had been the battlefield where I learned to fight for what mattered. And what mattered wasn't keeping everyone else happy. It was keeping the people who lived here safe, respected, and free to grow. The doorbell rang at 12:03 a.m., which was strange. I carefully extracted myself from Lily and went downstairs. Through the peephole, I saw a small package on the porch. No delivery truck, no person. I opened the door and picked it up. A card was attached. Inside the card, in my father's handwriting, "This was your grandmother's. She gave it to me to give to you when you became a mother. I should have given it to you years ago, but I was waiting for the right time. I realize now that the right time is when you're being the mother your daughter needs. That time is now. Dad." I unwrapped the package. Inside was a small silver frame with a quote engraved. "A mother's job is not to prevent her child from falling, but to teach her how to rise." I stood on my porch in the cold December night, holding this gift and let the tears come. They weren't tears of sadness or regret. They were tears of recognition. I had risen, and I was teaching Lily to do the same. I brought the frame inside and placed it on my desk in the office that used to be their room, a reminder that transformation is possible, that endings can be beginnings, that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is let go of what was never meant to last. As I climbed back into bed with Lily, I felt the weight of the past year finally lift. My parents had called us freeloaders in my own house. They'd tried to make me feel small in the space I had built with my own hands. But instead of breaking me, it freed me. Because I learned that home isn't where people tolerate you, it's where people celebrate you. And in this house, on this night, With my daughter breathing softly beside me and my future stretching out full of possibility, I finally understood what it meant to be home. Not because everything was perfect, but because I was finally, unapologetically, myself. And that was more than enough.